On a previous video, I identified who the woman is riding that beast with 7 heads. The woman is a religious system. The beast represents the Gentile kingdoms since the beginning of Gentile kingdoms with 7 heads, 7 different kingdoms from the beginning of the formation of those kingdoms after the flood of Noah until the last of the kingdoms, and Jesus takes over and there'll be no more Gentile kingdoms. Now, in this portion of the lesson, I want to show you what happens to the woman, her destiny. And I'll read this again. The waters which you saw where the harlot sits are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues, ruling over all the people of the world. Religion has ruled everybody on earth except God's people, who actually worship God from the beginning. And the 10 horns which you saw on the beast are those 10 kings of the last kingdom on earth that the devil completely controls over the Antichrist, until Jesus destroys the Gentile kingdoms and takes over forever. Those 10 kings ruling under the Antichrist will be destroyed, but before that, they're going to destroy the woman. Those 10 kings, these will hate the harlot, make her desolate and naked, eat her flesh and burn her with fire, for God has put it into their hearts to fulfill his purpose, to be of one mind to give their kingdom to the beast, the Antichrist, until the words of God are fulfilled. So there are 2 purposes I see. One is told here that God had a purpose. He wants to let the world's population know what's going to happen to people after they chose to believe the devil instead of God. Mankind is going downhill. And so God has a purpose in these end times for these 10 kings to give their full authority to the beast who will want to destroy the woman. Now that's God's purpose, but we have to speculate on the 10 kings' purpose, but I believe I know the truth, and you can do what you want to with it. Religion has helped every king and kingdom dominate people. The devil uses religion to dominate people. And so religion will help the Antichrist build his kingdom. You see, it's the last 7 years of this age. The Antichrist will arise the last 7 years. And that's divided up into 2 parts, 3.5 years each. It's the last 3.5 years that's called the Great Tribulation, where the 2 witnesses dominate Jerusalem and so forth. So obviously the first 3.5 years, the Antichrist will be conquering the rest of the world. The 10 kings, he puts down 3 of them, and the others will submit to him. So it'll take about 3.5 years for him to dominate the world under the Antichrist. And so he won't need them in the last 3.5. Once he gets total control, he will not need religion anymore, so they will destroy religion. That's my speculation. You can do what you want to with it, but that's a reasonable reason why the 10 kings will want to destroy the religious system. They don't need it anymore, and it will fulfill God's purpose. And so watch both videos, and again, turn to Dake's Annotated Bible if you want to know the full discussion and study of the end time events. I encourage you to do that. I recommend that Bible for that purpose. Now, see, let me show you something. See, people can lift scriptures, portions of scriptures off the page and start speculating and teaching, and many people will fall right into it and just gobble it up and believe what they say because they're so-called experts. But let me show you this. If you'll keep reading, sometimes if you just keep reading, the very next verse will show you something different from what you speculated on that previous verse. Verse 10 in Revelation 17:10. There are also 7 kings on these kingdoms. 5 have fallen, 1 is, and the other has not yet come. He explains what the 7 heads are. They're kingdoms, He said 5 have fallen, so he can't be talking about the 7 hills of Rome. Did 5 of those things fall, and then 1 exists in John's day? Because that's what he said. 5 have fallen, 1 is, and the other is not yet come. So the 5 have fallen, only 1 in John's day, and 1 hadn't come yet. He cannot be talking about 7 dirt and rock hills of the city of Rome. He's talking about kingdoms, Gentile kingdoms that have ruled on the earth from the first one until Jesus comes and takes over. And he said 5 have fallen. You see, 5. Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Persia, and Greece. That's 5. And 1 is John's day. It was Rome, and then 1 has not yet come. So he's saying in the last days, some part of this kingdom, division of this kingdom, will rise to the top and be that last Gentile kingdom to rule over Israel, oppress Israel, and try to rule the world before Jesus comes and puts an end to all this and sets up his kingdom that will last forever. And that's the idea here. Now I want to show you 2 purposes of this lesson. One is to identify who the woman is. It's a religious system ruling over a city. It's called a city. Mystery Babylon, the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. But in Revelation 18, it talks about the literal city of Babylon. And many people say, well, that's a code word of Rome. Well, it's not a code word. It's a city called Babylon. There's one of the letters, Peter's letters, I think, said, the church in Babylon greets you. So there was a little portion of that old empire, Babylon city, evident and still in existence in that day when that letter was written. And so that cities can be built overnight, so to speak, in our day. So whatever it is, it's not a code word. Babylon is Babylon, and there are other scriptures that show there was the literal city of Babylon, which will rise again, and that's what the Antichrist will rule over and rule from, and through these 10 kings. But I want to show you in Daniel, one of those 4 beasts that he saw had 10 horns. The horns were on one beast, not one on each one like many people show on the internet when I try to download these. That's why I had this picture drawn to show that it was each kingdom was a different head, and they might not be like the ones shown here, a cobra and an owl and so forth, but there were different animals and representing those different Gentile kingdoms because of their nature. One was a leopard, and one was a lion, and one was a bear. And then if you go back and study about Egypt, it's represented both as an eagle and as a crocodile and so forth. So different animals represented them. And the horns were 10 kings on the last kingdom before Jesus takes over. The horns were not on all the other nations, all the other kingdoms, just on that last one. And let me read the last of this chapter 17 in Revelation. Well, he's going on. He said, the beast had the 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings who have received no kingdom as yet in John's day. They will receive authority for 1 hour as kings with the beast, and they will give their power and authority to the beast. They will bow down to the Antichrist. The beast is talking about the Antichrist, a man filled with the devil. The devil will fully energize him. And in verse 15, then he said to me, the waters which you saw where the harlot sits are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. In other words, the religious system is ruled over the whole world. Everybody except God's people. The different forms of religion. It doesn't have to be one. Anything other than Christ, anything other than God's truth, those religions are of the devil, and they're of the world system, and they have ruled over the different systems. You can see today, different nations today, they have, some worship God, some don't believe there's no God. They worship different gods, but God's people worship the only true and the living God. And the angel is explaining to John who the woman is and her destiny and the destiny of the beast. The beast represented 7 kingdoms represented by people, kingdoms made of people. Kingdoms rule over people. So they have so many people they rule over. The waters which you saw where the harlot sits are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. And the 10 horns which you saw on the beast, these will hate the harlot. These 10 kings in the end time, that end time kingdom under the Antichrist, will hate the whore, the religious system. Now, the religious system has dominated the world, whatever kingdom, all the kingdoms from the beginning. But now at the end, they hate that religious system and they will destroy it. They will hate the harlot, make her desolate and naked, eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God has put it into their hearts to fulfill His purpose, to be of one mind, to give their kingdom to the beast until the words of God are fulfilled. And the woman whom you saw is that great city which reigns over the kings of the earth. It's talking about Babylon. If you'll see the truth of this, Mystery Babylon is a religious system, but their headquarters is out of Babylon. This began in Babylon. Actually, before the kingdom of Babylon, back early in Genesis, it talks about after the flood, and the people came together, and they built a tower, and they were going to build a city, and they started that kingdom, and it was in Babylon. And so all religious systems have come out of Babylon in one form or another and influenced all the nations of the earth. And John, the angel is showing John the destruction of that system when Jesus takes over. And so that Babylon is both a religious system and a city named Babylon. And in Revelation chapter 18, it goes into details about how the literal city will be destroyed by fire, and the merchants of the earth will lament over it. These kings want to kill the religious system. They rejoice over destroying the religious system, but they lament over the actual city being destroyed because that's where their living was. And I wanted to show you this because this is not talking about the 7 hills of Rome. 5 have fallen, 1 is, and 1 is not yet come. He was talking about kingdoms that from beginning after man's fall until the end when Jesus takes over. So these experts don't really know what they're talking about. Sometimes they hit it right on, but then they go completely out of the universe, so to speak. But if you'll get in the Bible, and I believe I presented those things accurately in my videos on this channel and the other one, Where is God? So I encourage you to look at them and make comments, ask questions, and I appreciate that. And that's what this is all about anyway, getting the Word of God out so that you'll know what is happening in these last days. And if you're not right with God, get right with God. And if you are right with God, rejoice in it and help me spread the word to other people so they can get right with God, because there's a judgment coming, and it's on these kings and kingdoms and the religious system, and then the Antichrist system when Jesus takes over and reigns forever, and there will be no more Gentile kingdoms ruling over God's people anymore. It will be God's people reigning on earth forever after that. And that is the way it really is.